Hello, everyone. This is the latest world news in America. If you're interested, I'd appreciate your likes and subscriptions. What makes cluster munitions so dangerous and who uses them? Background in the media. From the summary of combat operations of some conflict, you can often hear about the use of cluster munitions by one of the parties. But why does this happen? Because everyone knows that cluster munitions are prohibited. Let us try to answer the questions. What are cluster munitions? Why are they effective? Why are they banned by the UN Convention? And who continues to use them anyway? What is a cluster munition? The first thing to know about cluster munitions is that they are very dangerous. If the cluster hits residential areas, it will cause heavy losses to the civilian population. The most terrible and the most common are cluster bombs. What is such a bomb? It is the body of the munition itself, a hollow shape inside it, and a tip. The most interesting thing here is the hollow form. It can be filled with anything. Cartridges with defeat elements, air mines, anti-tank mines, anti-personnel mines, or they can combine several types of ammunition in the bomb. Inside a cluster bomb there are on average about 10 mines. Here we can make an analogy with the well-known Matryoshka doll. It is the same here. One bomb contains other munitions. The use of cluster munitions from the point of view of combat operations is very effective. It is, in fact, a universal munition. Cluster can cause serious damage to both the enemy's manpower and its equipment and infrastructure. In addition, the use of the munition makes it possible to cover a fairly large area of land. How cluster munitions are used? Cluster munitions are used in the following way. Bombs are loaded into a special compartment, and at the designated point the aircraft ejects the munition. Unlike a conventional bomb, it does not fall to the ground, but releases a parachute behind it during flight. This parachute aligns the bomb horizontally in the sky. Then cassettes with other munitions, mines, begin to fly out of it. The order of their release is pre-programmed, and due to the fact that the speed of the fall of the bomb is small, the accuracy is increased, and cassettes with mines are placed where they need to be. Each mine released from a cluster bomb also has a parachute and, as a rule, explodes above the ground. This greatly increases the area of impact. History of cluster munitions. Cluster munitions have been known for a long time, although previously they were somewhat different. Those munitions, which are most similar to modern ones in principle of action, were the result of developments in the 30s of the 20th century. The palm of superiority here was held by the Germans, who used their butterfly bombs. This form allowed the bombs to hover over the battlefield in the confrontation with the Poles. The USSR also had similar weapons, and they were used for the first time in the Soviet-Finnish War. True, all these munitions could hit only the enemy's manpower. But already in World War II they developed cluster munitions capable of destroying even tanks. With the end of the war, the topic of cluster munitions continued to develop. In the second half of the 20th century, Korea and Vietnam were especially active in using such munitions. As you probably remember, the United States fought against them. In 1980, cluster bombs were banned by the UN. However, this did not stop the use of this type of munitions by the USA, China and the USSR. The fact is that these countries never signed the convention. In 2008, the issue was put up for discussion again. Again the above-mentioned countries, only instead of the USSR, Russia, again did not put their signature on the document. It should be noted that in each of the countries listed above there is still a lot of work being done to modernize cluster munitions. One of the main tasks facing the developers of these weapons is to reduce the danger of cluster bombs to civilians. Thus, at present, the main emphasis is on self-guided mines that would hit only strictly designated targets. The reason for this plan is also the fact that about 5% of all cluster munitions do not explode in the air, but fall to the ground, where they can explode at any time. They started looking for a way out long ago, but they have not achieved much success so far. For example, the US Army paints cluster munitions in bright eye-catching colors. The goal is for the civilian population to be able to recognize such mines and not to come close to them. Unfortunately, such coloring attracts small children, which leads to tragedies. Cluster munitions of the Tochka-U missile. To date, cluster munitions are a very scary but effective weapon. Apparently, none of the superpowers is going to give it up. There is only one way out of the situation to reduce its danger to civilians, which is what armorers are doing.